So our final speakers of the day, Professor Anna Bradford of Bradford University and James Fernley of Nature's Laboratory.
Thank you very much. I must say, I think it's absolutely marvellous that you've stayed this long. It's been a really interesting, day for me. To be honest, I'm not terribly comfortable with lots of scientists. I never started out as one. I started out as a lawyer in 1968, and then I got involved with the Bradford during that flower power stuff. Do you remember it? Maybe some of you do anyway. But cutting to the chase, I spent the last 30 years, and I think it was something to do with all that change that was going on and all that back to nature stuff in the 60s. I spent the last 30 years, I'd say with some certainty in a sense, obsessed by a natural product or propolis. Propolis is a product produced by bees, and it's a substance which the bees use to keep the hive free from infection. So that's what I'm going to tell you a bit about first, before I hand over to Anna, and will tell you about our sort of METRC exercise, which has turned out to be extremely successful. Nature's Laboratory, yeah, we've been going for about sort of 20 years, and the company makes herbal medicines, and it makes medicines from bee products. And I guess one of the things that I've been trying to do in the business that I ended up with was to take products which have been, is to take products that have generally been seen as sort of as wacky medicine, natural medicine, and try and move them on with scientific research into being seen as the very complex and actually very effective products that they are. We all know what the problems are with pharmaceutical medicines. I don't think they need any introduction whatsoever. I mean, we're in a situation where in many cases the antibiotics, we have no antibiotics suitable to treat diseases. Why is that? It's because we overuse them, and because they operate in such a way they actually destroy the body's ability to perform the functions which it does naturally. Natural medicines, on the other hand, I think basically what they do is they stimulate the body's own capacity to look after itself and to support its own immune system. So that's what I've been doing for 20 years, is producing natural medicine. And I say, I'd say that the one product that I've been really concerned with is a product called propolis. Now, propolis, it's from the Greek, it's propolis, before the city. Aristotle defined the word, and it's what the bees use to defend their city, the beehive, against infection and against intruders. And essentially it's resin. The bees go out and they collect resin from trees and plants. You can all remember those sticky buds in springtime. That's what they go and collect. They collect it from flowers and plants as well. And they take it back to the hive and they basically process it in the hive and turn it into this very complex substance which contains about 300 different chemicals called propolis. They add wax and they process the propolis through their glands. They alter the chemical structures, and the end product is propolis. They use propolis to actually, a bit like you might use mastic, put it around the window frame. They use it to plug up all the holes in the hive, and they also render it down and they polish every cell out with it. They put it in the cell structure to give it a bit of reinforcement, and they use it. Well, I'll give you an example how they use it, because it's interesting in the sense that in this context, in this context, the way that it works sort of mechanically is also the way that it works sort of chemically. So if a mouse gets into a beehive, then I think I'm getting it. If a mouse gets into a beehive, then the bees can sting it to death, no problem. The only problem is they can't move it, so they've got a source of infection in the hive. What they do is that they'll go out, they'll collect propolis, which they've probably been storing around the hive, and they'll completely embalm that mouse in the hive, in the hive. And you could go back to that mouse 20 or 30 years later and find it perfectly preserved. There's a Georgian beekeeper's book, I think it's around about the 13th century, says how to keep a beehive healthy. Place a bear's eye into the middle of it. It doesn't seem, it's a bit counterintuitive, but in a sense you can see what's happening by introducing that infection. The bees have to stimulate their immune system. They collect propolis, they embalm it, and it's sealed up. And as it were, so above, so below. In fact, we think it's the flavonoids in propolis that seal the protein coatings of viruses, for example, and stop them from leaking into the body and causing infection. There's an example that I use over and over again talking about propolis, in the sense that it distinguishes itself from our current pharmaceutical approach to treating disease, in the same way I think that those very clever, smart missiles that are supposed to be going just down the chimney pots of the bad guys. So single molecule chemistry, I think, attempts to do exactly that. It tends to just target a specific problem, and the only trouble is that very often those missiles miss and cause collateral damage. Whereas products like propolis and other natural antibiotics, they work in a completely different way. They work by disarming, by immobilizing, by disconnecting. So we did some research at Oxford, well, maybe about 10 years ago now, and it showed that as an antibiotic, what propolis was doing was not, as it were, killing the bacteria, but it was kind of sealing them up and disconnecting the bacteria, stopping them from joining up and forming biofilm, which as you know, is very dangerous bacteria, because biofilm is bacteria that's organized, it's in battalions, it's got waste disposal systems, it's got communications, and it causes things like MRSA, which is extremely dangerous. Recent research, some Americans looking for a drug which would kid the quorum sensor. The quorum sensor is that chemical which triggers the formation of biofilm. It triggers it. It basically says if bacteria are floating around in your body, then your immune system can just knock them out. But once they get to a critical mass, then the quorum sensor comes and says, let's get together and let's get really dangerous. But they found that they developed a drug which could actually inhibit the quorum sensor. And right at the end of this article, they said, oh, and there are two natural products that do this too. One is propolis and the other is cranberry juice. So you see, these products are working in a completely different, they're working in a completely different way. They're working by sort of disabling rather than going in with the big guns and perhaps causing a lot of collateral damage. However, it's very, very difficult to, as it were, sell these products, sell these kind of natural medicines as natural medicines, because, of course, it's almost impossible to license them because they're all different. They're not, because they're not single, because they're not single, because they're because they're not single molecules. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, to get carried away with the thing. Yeah, because they're not single molecules, because they're very complex molecules, because they're very complex synergistic compounds. They're always different, so you're stumped before you start. with the licensing process because you have to have standardized material. Of course you have, because that's how the licensing process of pharmaceuticals work. So we have in Propolis a product that does good, that does work, but we'll never get a license, not in a month of Sundays, because I've looked at Propolis from all over the world, 400 samples from every continent and from every climatic zone over the last 10 years. We've looked at the chemistry of it, we've looked at we've done bioassays of it, and everywhere you find it's different. What we've been trying to do in a way is develop some kind of format, some kind of process that enables us to illustrate how Propolis works as a medicine. Although we can't enter into that kind of medicine arena because it's simply inimical. The process is simply inimical to it. So what we have done, and I'm coming slowly but surely to my connection with METRC. What we did sort of 4 or 5 years ago was we set up a research project at the University of Strathclyde, and as I say, we looked at hundreds and hundreds of samples of Propolis, and we made some discoveries. What we discovered is that depending where you found this natural Propolis, so the specific qualities, if you like, the specific medicinal properties of Propolis differ. So where it was warm, hot, and wet, then the antibacterial properties of Propolis were different, were better than they were in cold climates. And then we discovered something really interesting, and that was, for example, in dry, hot areas where there is sleeping sickness, we found that the bees collected resins which contained an anti-trypanosome chemical. But if you went outside the area where there was sleeping sickness, it didn't contain the anti-trypanosome chemical. So, in my mind, in my simple flower power way, I think what we have here is a kind of geographic medicine. The temperature inside the beehive is the same as in our body. The bee is collecting, if you like, the disease structure, the disease context of its environment, and it's developing it into its defense mechanism. I'm doing that. So I'm very happy personally that we've developed we're beginning to unlock the secrets of the beehive, particularly as far as Propolis is concerned, and beginning to understand that these things have very real medicinal properties, and that those medicinal properties will vary according to the environment, if you like, the health environment in which they are, which opens up an enormous sort of scope for, if you like, local medicine available locally. The question is, if you're running a business, which I've been trying to do for many, many years, is how do you actually go and sell products? How do you get those products to market? For example, we know that lots of people were using Propolis liquid to treat things like anti-inflammatory problems of all kinds, but specifically things like oral health problems, mouth ulcers, oral bacteria, and so on. The only problem is that Propolis is a foul-tasting and foul-smelling product, so it doesn't lend itself naturally to our kind of consumerized approach. So when I kept thinking, what I needed is one of these smart academics who could actually look at this product and actually turn it into something that we could actually practically use that actually minimize some of these qualities and deliver it in a way that would address some of those problems. And then, guess what happened? I met Professor Bradford, and who's now my colleague and friend, who's had a great deal of experience in natural medicine in India, and arrived at what was then the Institute of Pharmaceutical Innovation in Bradford, and who's now the director of the Centre for Pharmaceutical Engineering Services, Sciences. And that's where the METRC fund really connected, and at that point, I think it's probably best to hand over to the person who can talk about science now.
Thanks, James. I don't know what James means by science, so I have to speak. When he gets mic and in his hand, and he has to speak about propolis. He's master of propolis, world renowned expert in propolis. So he keeps on, and he's a better researcher than me. Just the thing always we say is he should have been in academics and I should have been in commercial environment. And which is good. And METRC gave us the opportunity to work on a project where I could use my commercial thinking and his science thinking to come together. So, when James met me, he came out with, we were discussing about the challenges of propolis. In India, I tried to work on propolis, but problem in India is the species Apis mellifera is not used in India for quite long time. Recently it has come, so we don't get much propolis. I wanted to have good quality propolis, and after that I started some research, and in 2008 I joined Bradford. And luckily I met in one conference with James, and we discussed about our common interest of propolis. And then he had a client from Korea. And Koreans especially think that it's a strong word. If you show it to many British clients, they say, oh, it's pleasant word. So it's a cultural difference in the consumer acceptability. And in eastern part, it is propolis is very popular. China, Japan, Korea is the major market. And a Korean client approached James, saying that it is a strong odor, we need to reduce the odor. And second thing is, they were preparing some health drinks, and wanted to incorporate and stabilize propolis in the health drink product. So the challenges were propolis has very poor solubility, strong odor, retention in oral cavity, which came to our mind later, and we need to develop a process. And the most important thing, James, before starting the project, James told me that come and see our company and then start the project. So it's an SAP. You have to keep in mind what is our structure of working, what sort of facilities we have, and you have to develop a process which should be capable of, we should be allowed to implement it in our existing capabilities, and of course funding. So these were the challenges, and there was huge market. He has shown me that if we do something, we can tap also in the mouth ulcer market. And with that carrot, I started working with enthusiasm on it. And so we kept two targets. One is development of deodorized and water-soluble propolis, which is for Korean market. And secondly, bioadhesive formulations using this material, which may be product for global market, especially the UK market. And we initially started with Business Link Award, and then METRC funded our next part of, where we, in the initial part, we tried to check which are the formulations which may be useful. And with METRC funding, we came to started thinking on technology for solubilizing, because my background is from pharmaceuticals, where we use and Center for Pharmaceutical Engineering Science is basically in making drugs soluble. So same technology which we use for or approaches we use for solubilizing drugs is the same which we are going to use here for natural products. So Center for Pharmaceutical Engineering Science, I will give brief introduction to this, and our major, as I joined IPI at that time, pharmaceutical innovation. So we have strong pharmaceutical research group, and we have IRC in polymer engineering, where we have strong polymer engineering group. Dr. Adrian Kelly, Dr. Tim Bob, and me, we came together and we thought about starting a center, and we started working more for the pharmaceutical industries. And that's the way we started. That is what we brought to the table. And METRC laboratory, especially James, brought a lot of the knowledge in the area of new products, especially propolis. Market research, where exactly is the market and how to tap the market, and commercialization and market reach was METRC laboratory's contribution to the project. Understand how exactly it works. It has become water, because one of the problems with propolis is very sticky, non-water soluble material, and how to formulate it is the main challenge. And by simple technique, we made it water soluble. Then every time we used to send sample to Korea, and Koreans will say, "Oh, we need further deodorization. It is too still it is stronger. We have to comply with Korean FDA requirements." And after all these iterations, 4-5 iterations, we finally ended up in a solubilized product. And this is it. This is the product which we manufactured at METRC laboratory, and it is exported as a concentrate. And what happens is, it goes in this milk product. 1% of this solution goes into milk product in Korea. It is on the Korean market, and most important thing is Vital logo, or it is marketed as a British product, developed in Britain. That is one major advantage which company got, that it has given big brand value in terms of this market reach. And now we are in the process of maybe in next 2 months. We'll be launching one important product, which is Vigel. It's a product for oral healthcare, because the leading product in oral mouth ulcer market sector is not suitable for children up to 16 years age. So this is the product which will have. There is a market gap. It's a natural product. The advantage of propolis is it is anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, as well as it is anesthetic. So, which is all the needs for mouth ulcer are shown or complied by propolis. So this gel is going to come in market in next 2 months. This is the major achievement which we did with METRC funding. And at the same time, we have developed some patches. It is in initial stages. We have to scale up the process, but the patch, polymer patch for bioadhesive polymer patches for oral treatment are also ready. Vigel is a bioadhesive gel, so it is retained for at least 30 minutes in the mouth. So this is the product which will hit the markets. Yes, so and we are trying for thermoreversible gel for inflammatory bowel diseases, which is one of the area, and for some cosmetic products, some liposome products. And how exactly it worked? So we started with concept development from business link. Deodorization technology was funded by METRC. We filed the patent, and university has signed a royalty agreement with the company. And company put some additional money. We are successful in getting a KTP, and this will generate, and we are trying now to go to with the product or commercialization of patch products. So the total impact from university and company point, it is very good. We have generated intellectual property, jobs are created, are created in the company. For company, the major benefit is brand value has improved significantly. It has been looked as a science-based research company, IP in its portfolio, international market. It has recently signed agreement with SFI, an Australian company, on the basis of this, and research funding, additional research fundings, and a patent for NSCD. Apart from this, me and James, we deliver lectures for beekeepers and general public about propolis and its uses, especially formulations which we use. Our business development officers and RKT officers, we have a STEM program at university, and this has been delivered to the students and schools also. And both of us got good profile-raising publicity, different, maybe around 70-80 news items published in this last 1 year. So good coverage for the university as well as company in this way. Good media coverage, including BBC News. And now I say that we both have the collaborators. We are lead collaborators or the best formulator and we are just saying that we are doing something. The real thing is. Thank you, and thanks to METRC.
Thank you very much, James, for inviting me to talk. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, James. I can understand your view and the frustration you have had with the establishment for 30 years. But personally, I believe that the both side is wrong. If you believe that there is this idea that modern medicine can solve all the problems, it clearly can't. Because if it could, modern medicine didn't exist, say, 200 years ago. If the natural process was not competent enough, our ancestors would have died and we would be here. So I think we need to learn from both sides. And this idea that modern medicine or the big pharma comes up with a small molecule that get licensed and nothing else does, that cannot be right either. Because in most cases, how those drug is working in human body, modern medicine doesn't understand at molecular level. They are still trying to get hold of it. So if you can show by using the same clinical practices with epidemiological data, if not molecular basis, that your product improves somebody's health, then I think that will solve. But at the same time, you can't be saying that, oh, just because they don't like me, I can, you can't have that view. So if they wanted to go through certain tests, you go through those with the help of this prop on board, and then it will solve. Because as a society, at the end of the day, we don't have the benefit. We really don't care who brings the benefit. But it has to be systematic and proven that it works. Not by, oh, my grandma told me it works. It has to be used with the modern techniques and proven. Then hopefully it will work. And personally, the story that you are telling about quantum sensing, 10 years ago, the protein that is responsible, that allows bacteria to talk to each other, I crystallized it as pH is going to hear each other. So I am aware of all that happened. There is no magic to it. And in the early 70s, the American surgeon or whoever, the top medicine globe, he said that we have got all the bacteria under control. And that was a wrong thing to say as well. We are never meant to control nature. We are meant to live with it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, does that feel?
I'd quite like to comment on that, because I think your argument was essentially that it had a synergistic effect. therefore you couldn't actually purify out the compound magic bullet, as you were saying that it was. So I guess you've got some evidence to doubt it. Is it a guess that you've tried to purify the magic bullet?
Well, I mean, actually, we at Stratford we did some research, some problems from the Solomon Islands where it's very hot, very wet. We did isolate this prenulated flavonoid compound that was extremely effective against MRSA. So, I mean, in a certain sense, you know, put the flag out that we've got a new antibiotic potentially. You know, I mean, the difficulty is what's the end result going to be? You know, in terms of long-term resistance and so on. So, I think that obviously I think it's a bit like trying to play Mozart with the tin whistle. You know, it's better if it's played with the whole orchestra, and that's how and obviously understanding the dynamic of that kind of synergy is an almost impossible.
Let's use nature, not
which is, I think, is where we have to, you know, it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But I agree absolutely. I think we have to do everything we can in a sense to understand these products from a scientific point of view.
I mean, the first antibiotics was discovered by chance, and for a number of years that could be used clinically, because then the virus to come in, characterize it, and then it will hit the market and change the world. So if this product has got something, we have to take the same methodical approach, prove it, then it will be not, you will not advertise it.
Well, yes, there's a big debate there.
There are currently 6 products under clinical trial, and it is most of the natural drugs. Some trials are under nutraceuticals and some trials are under drug. So it is for cancer, it is under drug. For Alzheimer, Japan has invested huge money in projects on propolis for Alzheimer, and there are trials which are already in process in states for these things.
Yeah.
We have to learn to look after ourselves.
Absolutely.
You know, it isn't about magic bullets of any kind. But I think my point, and I'm glad I've stimulated some conversation, but I think my point is that we do have to look after it ourselves, you know, and that these medicines are truly they're aids. They're not, you know, they're part of nature's gift for us, you know, and I'm not afraid to say that.
And that is part of evolution. What in the beginning you talked about that antibiotic resistance is happening because of abuse of antibiotics. That's not the case, because of evolution, you are always going to get some resistance. But if you use more of it, the resistance rate increases. So it's not a single thing; it's a continuously evolving process.
I think, I mean, if we just, I mean, the thing about propolis, you know, when you talk to doctors and you say it's antibiotics, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, you can see their eyes glaze over. You know, oh, that can't be true, because it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work in a targeted way. It's just a different concept of medicine, really.
Anyway, I think we'll leave it there. It's obviously